As we all know, Castlevania has been officially announced by Behavior to be the August chapter. We are finally getting a vampire in the fog. And with that, today we're going to dive into what Dracula's power and playstyle could be when he enters the fog. So let's talk about it. Alright, so just a few things. I have only played a few of the Castlevania games. I actually had to do a lot of research, and a lot of the information that I've gotten has been from just, the Castlevania wiki or the fandom website that, goes over all the lore from the Castlevania games. One thing to go ahead and note, in the trailer, it does say Konami Digital at the bottom. So I think we can go ahead and say that it will be the Castlevania from the video games and not from the Netflix show. I also noticed in the roadmap that there was no new map coming for that chapter. It just says new survivor and new killer. To go ahead and briefly touch on the survivor, I think something that we can honestly say with all these like speculation videos and this time where we're kind of just coming up with ideas, we really have absolutely no idea, especially with Castlevania. Like I said, I don't know a ton about Castlevania. I've played a couple of the Lords of Shadow games, but in doing this research, I discovered that the Lords of Shadow games are actually not canon. That was a reboot. So I'm not even sure if they're going to be using if the Dracula is going to be from those games or if it's going to be from the earlier OG original games. But as far as survivors, we have a couple of options. It could be a son, it could be a la carte, it could be, or it could be like Leon Belmont. It could be Richter or Simon. It could be Trevor. So we really don't know. I guess we'll just have to see come August, which is not that far away now. So definitely looking forward to that. But for today, I really kind of wanted to focus on, Dracula and his power and what his playstyle would be mainly. So in looking over the fandom wiki and trying to, just learn up on Dracula and see where DBD and Behavior could have pulled for this character, it looks like he has a lot of things that he could be bringing into the game. I know we have a lot of killers that do teleport, but it looks like this probably will be another killer that can teleport. I'd be surprised if he doesn't have some sort of teleportation, where he turns into a bunch of bats and flies away. I mean, he even does that in the trailer, so he probably will have a teleportation power. Of course, we have no idea. This is all fun and games, speculation, but it may be a safe bet to say he has some sort of movement. On the fandom wiki, I did see that was something that it mentioned. About his movement and powers. To be specific, it does say, talking about transformation, it says that he actually has the ability to shapeshift and teleport. He will probably be teleporting in DBD of some sort. Now, as far as power, again, there's tons of things. My guess is that it's gonna have something to do with buffs from blood, like when he bites you or something. He has some type of attack or a special ability where he can bite, and when he drains blood from survivors, and then that gives him certain buffs around the map. As far as just to touch on his M1, I tried to look up a few things. I don't think it's going to be a whip, because that seems to be primarily used by the Belmonts, who were it looks like they were the protagonists of the series, of the games. So I don't think he'd be using a whip. Of course, if any of you guys have more experience with the Castlevania games, please, let me know in the comments and we'll talk about it. But I don't think it's going to be a whip. Not really thinking a sword. I would honestly be okay if it was just his claws. Like he just was using his hands to swipe, swipe at people. And maybe that's his M1. It's just like his claws. And, I think that could be kind of cool. All right, let's pause really quick. I did realize after I made this audio that he does use what's called a shadow whip in the Lords of Shadow games. But I was initially thinking that they wouldn't do that because I feel like they're going to be using the original timeline for Castlevania. So that's why I was thinking that he may not have a whip. But that shadow whip is looking really nice now that I'm looking back at old gameplay. Hey, but while I have you here, did you know subscribing was free? How many killers do we have that just use their claws or hands? I know Demogorgon does. I think Hag does, and I'm probably missing someone, but I'm not really entirely sure that he's going to be using an actual weapon for his M1. But we will see. I could be, this is like we always say, this is entirely speculation, so I could be wrong. He could have some sort of sword, or he could be using the whip. I'm not entirely sure. But I think it'd be cool if he just used his claws for his basic M1 attack. But to get back on the actual power for Dracula, to be honest, guys, there's so many things that they could pull from that I'm really not entirely sure. Of course, we're not sure at all because we don't know, but There's so many things they could pull from that it's a little, you know, it's a little difficult to pinpoint exactly what it would be like. I mean, you know, we know that he's a vampire. We know that he probably will have some sort of teleportation ability. The wiki says that he has many abilities. The wiki says that he can use magic. The wiki says that he can even he's even been able to possess people. The wiki mentions that he's been able to fire fireballs and everything. So I was finding a lot of information about just the many things that Dracula from Castlevania can do. So with that, I'm honestly thinking that this is going to be a unique power from Behavior, where they're going to come up with something, you know, that it's not something that we can kind of just easily guess. It's going to be something that is a combination of all these things. I do think that we're definitely going to get some teleportation, something using the bats, you know, his physical form turning into bats. I do think that. I do also think that he's going to bite survivors. That's going to be maybe like an alternate ability, or that's, you know, his power where he can, it has like tears where he bites and then he gets buffs from, you know, from blood from biting survivors to where he kind of builds up maybe. So there are many things, but what I do know is that this killer has a lot of potential, and I think with that, this killer will be very fun to play. I think he's going to be a very cool killer, a very cool presence in the fog. I do think if Alucard is not the survivor, then Alucard could actually be another skin for Dracula. I do think as far as the Mori, I think the Mori will have something to do with draining the survivor's blood. They may have like a little animation with his bats and everything. But yeah, we will have to see. Of course, as always, guys, this is just total speculation. We have no idea what could be coming and what the power could be like. I do know that it's going to be a very cool presence, and it's going to be awesome to finally have a vampire joining us in the fog. I do want to give a big shout out and a thank you to all of you. Like I mentioned in my last video, the Jason speculation video has done very well, and it brought in a lot of new people to the channel. So glad you're here. And just like we did in that video, you know, don't really know, we're just having fun with it. If you guys have any ideas, maybe you guys know more about the Castlevania games than I do, yeah, let's go ahead and have a conversation in the comments and let's talk about it. As I always say, let's keep it civil. No place for negativity or mean people here. So let's try and continue to keep it that way. Like I always say, stay safe, and I will see you in the fog.